You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm your host, Steph. This is going to be a quick episode, just a little, update episode of what happened in day 3, which happened today, 49ers training camp. I was not there today. This particular training camp session was closed to fans, so really just credentialed media members were in the house today. And while I'm on the subject, shout out to my friend Jordan Elliott for getting his credentials. He was on the field today, and he had some great updates. If you guys catch some of his YouTube appearances, as well as putting out some great content for Niners Nation, go ahead, check that out. And he's J. Lee Elliott on Twitter. Anyway, so let's talk about today. Kyle Shanahan he spoke after the practice today, which, of course, as I mentioned, we were not able to see today's practice or get too much insight more than what, beat writers were saying. Trent Williams, who has been out for the first 2 days of training camp. We actually found out today that he was out because of the birth of his child. So congratulations to Trent Williams on that. That was a family matter he was dealing with. So happy to hear that it is good family matters going on for Trent. So he was back in the building today, but from what I've seen and what I've heard, it didn't seem like he practiced today. So he was there, but he did not practice. And another player who did not practice once again was Arik Armstead. He, according to Kyle Shanahan, will be sidelined for a few weeks with a knee sprain. Sounds like the team is not worried about it at the moment, but I mean, it's a bummer for Arik Armstead to, have a knee sprain this early. Then he's going to have to, ramp up before they start playing preseason games. But at the same time, he's a vet, you can count on him. He probably at this point in his career doesn't need to be at every practice to, be fresh and make impact in games. What's going on, Keith? Man, ever since you told me that I was pronouncing your name wrong, I've been dying for you to come back in the comments so I can show you that, okay, I know how to say his name now. Keith. My bad for getting it wrong all those times. I butcher names all the time, by the way. You guys didn't know that. But Arik Armstead, he was sidelined. And so the 49ers did sign another defensive lineman, because Armstead is going to be out for a while. So they signed defensive tackle Tomasi Lawlyle. And he's going to be filling in. He's, to me, nothing more than a camp body. And that it is what it is. But aside from that, it seems like Trey Lance struggled once again today. And yesterday there were some up and downs, right? Today it seemed like it was worse than yesterday. He was 4 of 11, and in addition to that, he also had an interception. He threw an interception. So I was looking at some of the things that people have said about him. KP put out a good recap of day 3 on Niners Nation, and the one good takeaway that he had was that, Trey Lance was showing that he could scramble, he could escape the pocket, and he keeps his eyes downfield, always looking for a target, even when he's escaping. So he mentioned that. And I mentioned that yesterday. Like, I saw that. So even though it wasn't, translating to actual completions all the time, that's a very good quality to have in a quarterback, because right now we know that the offensive line in particular is struggling. And as I mentioned, Trent Williams, he was back today, but he didn't practice once again. Um, it's a bunch of guys who don't have a lot of experience starting, and you guys know this defensive line. This defensive line is a beast. It's a monster. You don't want to go up against them. And the guys that are currently going up against them in practice, one, are at a huge disadvantage because they were not in pad, or the players aren't in pads. And two, they have to go against one of the toughest defensive lines in the entire league. And that defensive line is full squad. It has Nick Bosa on one end. It has Ebukam. Well, not full squad aside from Eric Armstead, but they're stacked. Okay, so it just seems like the offensive line is overmatched by the defensive line at the moment, and so I'm gonna leave it at that for now. So Click X Factor asks, is there a reason to worry about Lance and his numbers? And as I mentioned, he was 4 of 11 with an interception. I mean, no, it's still early, okay? Of course, like I wish he would have bounced back today, but at the same time, there are some things beyond his control. I heard there were some drops today, based on some of the reports from the beat writers. They said there were a lot of drops from the receivers. And again, the defensive line dominated. Again, the offensive line is struggling. So that's going to have a domino effect on Trey Lance and his numbers. So at the moment, I'm choosing not to struggle. And I, take the good with the bad. We know that he is showing this ability to, escape the pocket. He has good pocket awareness. He's good with scrambling, evading some pressure. And of course, I think there would have been many would-be sacks. Certainly there was in the first two practices. So I could assume that continued in day 3 as well. But there aren't any true sacks. So, they're still able to get the ball out, they being the quarterbacks. So I'm choosing not to worry. I don't want to worry about it. I think I just want to focus on, okay, what did he do well? And I think we can look at the fact that, he does try to extend plays. He does, move away from the pocket when it's collapsing, things like that. That's great quality to have. And at some point when this offensive line, gets it together, when we start seeing Trent practicing, who knows if Trent will even practice in training camp at all, to be honest with you. He probably doesn't need to. He's one of those players, again, that you might as well give someone else the extra snaps. But, as long as, like, Trent's not there, Mike McGlinchey's not there, we're going to continue to see, a lot of mistakes from this offensive line. And I've been saying for like almost all off season that as soon as we knew that Alex Mack was retiring, and right guard was iffy, like I've been saying that this offensive line with those two new players, who we can assume that both of those are going to be new positions. Let's just say there's a chance that Brunskill still ends up at the right guard spot. So there's that. But when there's any new guy on the offensive line, it does take some time for all of it to gel, because the offensive line, more than any other unit, I think, is their success is predicated on them being able to have chemistry and timing and cohesion and being in sync. And so even when you have a Trent Williams and a Mike McGlinchey on one end, like, there are going to be mistakes if there's one guy whose timing is off. That could be a sack right there just because of that one guy, so We're gonna see that for a while. I think. I think it's going to, even the first few weeks of the regular season. I think they'll still kind of be working things out. So sorry if I sound like a broken record with that, because I've been saying that for a bit. But like, I truly think the offensive line is going to continue to struggle. In the meantime, I do think also, taking the good with the bad, that's good for Trey Lance, that he's getting this much pressure during practice. I'm sure it's very frustrating for him. He wants to uh, be the man, and he wants to show off what he can do. But at the same time, long term, like this, I think these are going to be teaching moments for him. And this defensive line is going to be one of the best, if not the best, in the entire league. So if Trey Lance has prepared himself going against this defensive line and this defense, hopefully when the season comes and he's playing other teams, it'll feel a lot easier for him, and the game will be a little bit slower for him as well by then. So, the one thing I am somewhat concerned of, and KP also put this in his recap of day 3, was that Trey Lance, when he misses bad. He's inaccurate when he misses. So that I'm a little concerned about. I'm not gonna lie, but it's day 2, it's day 3. There's that's another thing, that like working with your receivers, and when it's your first few practices with your receivers, although he has been practicing with Ayuk during the off season, there's going to be timing differences. There's going to be miscommunications, things like that. There's no game planning at all right now during 11 on 11s. Like, so, things like that can also have an impact on the cohesion of, the offense as a whole, and how Trey Lance could be struggling right now with timing with his receivers, and things like that. So that could be it. I don't know, but I do know that that's one thing that needs to improve, and definitely going to be keeping an eye on that. As we've been saying, the pads come on Monday. So once those pads come on, I'm going to be paying attention to that offensive line, seeing who's struggling, seeing who does look better with pads on, because it is sure to give them, a bit of a boost up front. Let's see. Let me get some of these comments right here. Keith says, good to struggle now and grow from it. Media freaked out when Jimmy G threw 10 picks in preseason. Yeah, exactly, Keith. So that, like I said, it's good to struggle now, and also it's good to keep in mind that Trey Lance is struggling against one of the better defenses in the league. So again, you hope that when he faces other teams, it feels easier for him, and he is able to make those all the plays that he wants to. What's going on, Javier? What's going on, Ty? Ty said, I'm late. Have you talked about Davis Price yet? I have not. But I didn't hear too much about Davis Price from day 3, at least from what other people have mentioned with Davis Price. So, I did hear Jordan Mason is looking good. Once again, he has a potential to be a gem. I think an undrafted free agent gem. When have we heard that before, right? Only all the time. Keith says practicing against a top 5 defense every day will pay off in the long run. I definitely agree. Iron sharpens iron. I think Trey Lance is like a very strong-minded quarterback that yes, it's frustrating, but he's not going to let it like beat down his confidence over time. Because I feel like there are some quarterbacks like that, right? Um, if they struggle a lot, it really messes up with their mentality and it starts getting to them, and then it really starts affecting how they're playing. I don't see Trey Lance as that kind of quarterback, so I think he can overcome this adversity, and I think he's gonna come out stronger in the end and looking a lot better. So, um, again, with when the pads come on, everything we're anticipating that everything will look just a little bit different, and hoping that that is enough to give Trey Lance just a second longer to make a play, to get timing right with his receivers, all of that. So I'm not freaking out about it, and yeah, like we said earlier, like this is the time to struggle, this is the time to make mistakes, try new things. Another good thing that I'm going to take from all this is that Trey Lance is taking chances in practice, and you want to see that, especially for a young quarterback. You don't want him to be like too conservative, because then they get comfortable with like being conservative, doing the check downs all the time. But Trey Lance really, it's like he's testing the waters. He, seeing what he can get away with, seeing what he can do with the defense. And I also think it's good that we've seen that as well, because he's not afraid. And I, I like that, personally. But yeah, the receivers struggled with drops. Let's talk about Nick Bosa really quick, because he did speak with the media today. As you guys know, I mean, this is Nick Bosa's first. Is it his first year coming up or going into the season where he's not like rehabbing, right? Like, um, and that has been quite a big deal, because for the first time in a long time, he can just focus on improving and not worrying about, rehabbing and strengthening, you know, whatever knee, whatever injury that he had before. So, one thing that he mentioned that I thought was uh, pretty interesting, and I'm so excited to see, is that this season he's going to be rushing more from both sides of the line. I love that, because you can take advantage of matchups better that way, right? Um, if you have someone as good as Nick Bosa, usually if the um, left tackle is, let's say, the best player on another uh def- on another offensive line, then move Nick Bosa to the other side. Let's see how good that guy is on the other side. So I think it's going to be really good for Nick Bosa and this defense, and D'Amico Ryans and Chris Kosarich. They're very creative, and so I'm excited to see how they use Nick Bosa this year, with the fact that he's going to be rushing from both sides. So excited about that. And again, these are the little things that he can work on now that he is not worried about rehabbing. It's the little things. One thing he said is that, with D Ford out last year, he did start, rushing more from both sides, but it wasn't like very often. So he said he felt almost awkward going to the other side and rushing from the other side. Now he's making it a point to, I don't know if he meant like after every session that he goes out there with the first team during practice, he's going to switch sides, but he said he's going to be switching sides more often in practice so that he can get more comfortable with that. I love that, and I love that work ethic. Another person who we keep hearing has been struggling is Ambry Thomas, and I mentioned him yesterday because for the first 2 days he struggled. Now we hear again that he struggled. He did have an interception today, though, so I'll give him that. That's great to see. Maybe it'll be a confidence booster for him. But overall, he has struggled quite a bit, and I'm hoping he can turn it around. On the other hand, quietly, I feel like Diamador Lenore he's been pretty solid. And when I say solid, like he hasn't been as good as Charvarius Ward and Emmanuel Mosley, of course. But he hasn't been as bad as Ambry Thomas either. Like he's been good. He's been solid. He's he's made some plays. And so as a backup to Ward and Mosley, like I'd feel pretty good with Lenore, and I think he'd be a good fill in for them should any of them get hurt. Of course, there's Jason Barrett as well, so he would be probably third on the depth chart after those guys, and then Lenore below that, because I'm putting Lenore ahead of Ambry Thomas right now without a doubt. And another thing of note, because a lot of people have asked, is Lenore working in the slot or is he working on the outside? Up to this point, he's only been working on the outside with the second team unit. So make of that what you will. Actually, I don't know who's been the slot in the second team. It might be Womack, but I know for the first team it's been Darquez Denard the whole way. So again, I think it's his spot to lose. Hufanga had another good day today. He got. Did he get an interception today? I think I saw that. A second. 1 second. Yeah. Hufanga had an interception today during 11-on-11. He's looking good. He's continuing to improve. What's going on, Mariah? Ty says, I like Lenore. I hope he sticks. He'll definitely stick. I think so. I think he's definitely showing his worth. And I know someone on Twitter was, saying that they think maybe they can move on, the 49ers would move on from Ambry Thomas. I don't know if that's the case. I think it's still a little early to give up on him. He's still a second-year player. But at some point, he's going to have to start to bring it and make some huge strides, because it's the same thing with him over and over. So hopefully he can, maybe week 2 of training camp, he can turn it up a bit, because again, Lenore has looked better than him at this point. All right, guys, I got to jump because I got to head out, but thank you so much for tuning in to this, short episode of day 3 recap of training camp. I'm going to be at camp tomorrow, and this time I don't have to work in between training camp, so I'm going to be there early tomorrow. And so I'll have some updates on my Twitter, and of course, I'll do a live at the end of the day tomorrow. All right. But I appreciate you guys checking this out. Have a good rest of your night. Have a good weekend. Peace.